enabled. WazirX and CNBC TV18 present Crypto, Digital Assets of the Future.
Hello and welcome to the special series WazirX and CNBC TV18 presents Crypto, the Digital Assets of the Future. Joining us today is a very special guest. He is Chairman and CEO at MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor. Michael, hi. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Michael, you were the first one. And then, of course, we've seen a lot of Wall Street banks and corporates talk about cryptocurrencies, taking it not just on their balance sheets, but, insisting on taking it as a payment as well. But I want to ask you on, what was the strategy behind a software firm as yours to start buying into cryptocurrencies, start supporting it?
The reason that we decided to buy Bitcoin is we realized that we couldn't just digitally transform our P&L. We needed to digitally transform our balance sheet. And that meant take that $500 million in cash that was yielding zero in nominal interest, but generating a minus 25% investor return. And we needed to convert it into something that was going to go up in value faster than the rate at which the money supply would expand. And the theoretical answer to that question is buy a scarce asset that nobody in the world can make any more of, that's going to be a basis for the 21st century technology economy. And that's what Bitcoin is. It's a combination of digital gold. You can't make more than 21 million of these Bitcoins. And it's also the protocol and the network for moving billions of dollars of capital around at the speed of light in the 21st century. So it made sense for us that we would rotate our capital from, in essence, analog money yielding zero to digital money that's appreciating at a rapid rate.
So, Michael, well, yes, we've seen the cryptocurrency acceptance grow quite a bit, especially in last 1 year. You can perhaps buy a car now, you can buy goods, and you can also buy subscriptions on online, publications. How soon, when we see Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies being used to pay salaries to employees, that would be a huge transition. Do you see that coming?
What we're going to see is the growth of digital currencies and the growth of digital assets. People refer to Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency, but after you think about it, you conclude that it's really a crypto asset. And the thing that makes something a currency is two things. It's a currency if you can transfer it as a medium of exchange without paying taxes on the transfer. So I can move dollars or I can move euros or any other currency without a taxable event. And that's a political decision by the government. The other thing that makes something a currency is it sits on a payment rail and can be used as a medium of exchange with stability and with very, very low transaction fees. So what I think you're going to see is an explosion of digital currencies, the digital euro, the digital dollar, a stable coin, digital rupees. In any country, they will digitize their currency to move it rapidly and stably. And then what you'll see is that people use assets like Bitcoin as a long-term store of value. Assets like Bitcoin are increasing their purchasing power because, of course, central banks can make more currency, but no one can make more Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin's a deflationary asset, and currency is generally an inflationary asset. And so I think that if you have the opportunity to be paid in Bitcoin, it's good, but you just have to bear in mind that it's a taxable event. So if an employer pays you in Bitcoin, they will generally buy the Bitcoin on Tuesday in the morning and transfer it to you on Tuesday in the afternoon or minutes afterwards, so they don't incur a capital gains tax or a capital gains loss. And so if they're going to do that, they could just easily pay you in the local currency, and then you could convert it into Bitcoin yourself, and you'd have the same treatment. So that's what I would counsel people to do when they're thinking about these things.
So, Michael, what you're saying is that they could all coexist basically, whether it's fiat currencies or stable coins or CBDCs or cryptocurrencies for that matter. Is that the kind of scenario that we're looking forward to?
I think we'll see a world where everybody has a mobile device, and on that mobile device, in addition to photos and videos and messages and documents, they will have a wallet. And in that wallet, they will have a selection of currencies and a selection of assets. And the strongest currency will be that currency in the country where they live, if that country manages its currency well. In some countries, the currency collapses, Zimbabwe and Venezuela. And if it collapses, then they will substitute another currency like the dollar as their stable currency. And then that second layer of that wallet will be just a mixture of assets. And maybe they'll have stocks that they love, and maybe they'll have some other assets, but they might have a variety of cryptocurrencies. But I think that they'll have Bitcoin as a primary asset. Bitcoin is a trust network that allows every application on Earth to transfer value between every other application on Earth. And it's as profound as TCP/IP, which is the internet protocol that allows every server to transfer information with every other server. As that trust protocol expands, then we will grow in the 21st century into a world where 8 billion people have the ability to trade with each other with trust and to store their life energy forever without worrying about it draining away. In the impoverished nations of the world right now, the currency collapses and then the banks collapse. And if the banks and the currency collapse, you're reduced to Stone Age barter, and you literally have to trade horses and cows and wheat and bushels of something for labor. The economies just break down. It's literally the same as those type 1 diabetics, and they just can't store fat. And so their vitality breaks down. So I am very enthusiastic about Bitcoin as the protocol to build the 21st century cyber economy. It should deliver an egalitarian, empowering technology that will progress the human race forward and spread prosperity to everyone.
You have a way with word, Michael, giving all those examples to put the point across. But I have to stop for a very short commercial break, come back to you and talk about the valuation, market cap, and prices of Bitcoin as well.
WazirX and CNBC TV18 present Crypto, Digital Assets of the Future. WazirX and CNBC TV18 present Crypto, Digital Assets of the Future.
Welcome back, and we are in the middle of a very interesting conversation with Michael Saylor. Michael, you also have predicted the price of Bitcoin going forward. How would you put the current valuations to? What's your sense on where the prices are going to be, and what's also your sense on the market cap on Bitcoin and overall cryptocurrencies? Let's say another year, another 5 years from now.
Bitcoin is growing rapidly. We expect that it will eventually reach the size of the gold precious metal market, which is 10 trillion. Then it will progress on to 20, 30, 40, 50, and then 100 trillion. I would expect that the overall monetary planet keeps expanding. Right now, it's expanding at 15% a year. If you look at the rate at which the Federal Reserve is expanding the US dollar, and all the other currencies are expanding at that rate or faster. So we reach a world where we have a quadrillion dollars, $1,000 trillion, and then you can see what portion of that world wants a long-term store of value like a digital gold. Well, and what portion of that money should flow into it. I don't know why 10% or 20% of that money wouldn't flow into it, because Bitcoin is the dominant digital monetary network, and it's the scarcest monetary asset in the world. So I expect it will continue to progressively advance, and it will take on a greater portion of the overall monetary planet, and it should appreciate at the fastest rate of any other asset that we can find that's a $1 trillion scale over time. So I wouldn't give you a forecast for where it will be at the end of the year or the end of 2 years, but what I would say is At 50,000, it's about $1 trillion asset. At 500,000, it's about a $10 trillion asset. If you look at the amount of money that's invested in index funds, it's far in excess of that. And Bitcoin is a better index. It's an objective index. You can't print any more of it. You can create more company stocks. You can create more companies. You can create more gold and silver. You can create more debt. You can create more currency. You can't create any more Bitcoin. So obviously I'm bullish, and I think it will appreciate progressively forever.
I also want to get your sense on the regulatory aspect of it, because some countries are embracing it. Some countries are still suspicious of it. India also, we are still awaiting the regulations on this one, on what the government would do with. What has been your sense, your conversations with the lawmakers? Have they evolved? Are they embracing it as well? Because that would make life much more easier.
Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed, said Bitcoin is an asset like gold. It's digital gold versus gold. And some number of weeks ago, Christine Lagarde, the head of the EU Central Bank, referred to it as an asset that people speculate in like gold. The lieutenant governor of the China Central Bank referred to it as an asset that has a place in investment portfolios. So what we can see is a consensus growing around the world from central bankers. It's an asset, not a currency. Stable coins are currency. Stable dollars, stable euros, and CBDCs are currencies. And so as an asset, central bankers are going to leave it to investors to decide how to allocate their portfolio. The incoming head of the SEC is, the new head of the SEC is Gary Gensler. He taught a class in cryptocurrency at MIT, my alma mater, and he's probably one of the most accomplished, most sophisticated regulators in the world when it comes to understanding cryptocurrencies and their place in the 21st century economy. So I think the consensus amongst regulators is Bitcoin is a crypto asset. It's a digital asset. I think with regard to regulation, what you'll see is I think you'll see that they will focus upon creating clarity and controls around digital currencies. Nobody wants to lose control of the currencies. I think that assets will be left as decisions for investors to make. And I think you can expect know your customer and anti-money laundering regulations around assets. So if you invest a large sum of money in gold or in bonds or in stocks or in cryptocurrencies or in Bitcoin, then I think that there'll be know your customer, KYC, AML regs on that. They're not going to want you to wire $1 billion of Apple stock to a private location that they don't understand. And they won't want you to wire $1 billion of Bitcoin to a private location they don't understand any more than they want you to wire $1 billion of US dollars to a private location. So I think institutional custodians will have that kind of regulation. But I don't think that's really a threat to the growth of the asset class. If anything, I think that you'll see clarity around what is a digital currency versus a crypto asset or digital asset, and that will accelerate the growth of Bitcoin. Right now, Bitcoin is deemed as property and a commodity, and therefore, if you're trading it, it's regulated by the CFTC. And as property, it means that a politician or a corporate CEO could get on television and say they're in favor of it. They think it'll go up in price. If it was a security like my stock, or it was like any stock, private or public, and you got on television, or if you were a senator or congressman or a mayor, and you said, I think the security is a better store of value than the US dollar, then that would actually trip over a lot of regulatory constraints. So clarity with regard to what is a security versus what is property, I think is critical for the crypto industry to evolve. And there's a lot of questions around things other than Bitcoin But I think Bitcoin is in a class of its own as the oldest, the largest, the most credible asset, and it's been deemed as property by the IRS, the SEC, and other regulators. And so, as the rest of this regulation gets clarified, and we get parity and clarity about how you define a currency versus an asset, and how you define a property versus security, I think that that's very constructive for the industry. It makes large banks, large insurance companies, large publicly traded companies, and large investors more comfortable allocating a greater portion of their portfolio to Bitcoin, and it will grow the market.
And it's not just about this and that, Michael, the governments also are talking about, especially the Indian government also has said that they are ready to, support or work or experiment with blockchain, but not so much with cryptocurrencies. Are the two so separable?
I think that the most successful blockchain in the world is Bitcoin, and I think Bitcoin over time will grow to be $100 trillion asset and network. So if a country wants to ensure its prosperity and technology leadership in the 21st century, you need to embrace and allow your companies and your citizens to own Bitcoin. You need to allow your companies to operate with the Bitcoin protocol, because the Bitcoin protocol is as profound as the internet. If you were to deny them the ability to access the Bitcoin blockchain, it would be like denying electricity, or denying fire, or denying the internet access, or cutting off your citizens from some fundamental thing, like cutting them off from Google and YouTube. Isn't going to make your economy more successful. But Bitcoin is 100 times more profound than Google, and it's probably 100 times more profound than the internet, because it really is monetary electricity. So I think that oftentimes people that don't understand it, they think that perhaps they can just use the technology, but they can ignore Bitcoin. What they will realize is that every successful technology company in the 21st century will plug into Bitcoin, and every successful finance company will plug their product into Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the dominant monetary energy network of the 21st century. And if you cut yourself off from it, it's like making it illegal to use compressed air or electricity or fire in your country. It won't end well. And I think that people will figure that out in time. They just need the experience to understand that this is a profound energy network. All of the human race is elevated through capturing, storing, and channeling energy. Fire, aqueducts, electricity, and Bitcoin. And so once you figure that out, you realize that if you want to be a leader in the 21st century, and if you want your companies to be successful, and if you want your citizens to be wealthy, then they need to own Bitcoin, and they need to be able to manage and transfer value on the network, and they need to be able to master the protocol, and they need to build applications on the protocol.
So, Michael, I have time for just about one last question with you. We all know that, you do favor Bitcoin, but if Michael Saylor had a ranking in sense of cryptocurrencies, is there a second and a third and a fourth as well?
I think that Bitcoin is the dominant digital monetary network of the 21st century. It's like digital gold. And so if I had treasury assets that were in cash or bonds, and I wanted a safe long-term investment, then I would invest them in Bitcoin. If I was a venture capitalist and I was making risk investments in venture capital, then I would probably analyze many of the other crypto assets, and they're all competing with each other for various use cases like NFTs and DeFi and stable coins and provenance and license and the like, and privacy. And I think they're interesting, but I also think that there are other publicly traded companies you can invest in that have exposure to Bitcoin. And then there are other types of private companies that have exposure to Bitcoin. And you could allocate your portfolio to any of those things. They're all just different risk assets. I wouldn't choose any one of them. I really think that Bitcoin is the single most important thing that's happened in our lifetime. Everything else is interesting in relation to it, depending on how it's exposed to it. But they're all very complicated adventures and venture capital investments. And so you have to analyze them carefully.
Michael Saylor, thank you so much for spending time with us here on CNBC TV 18. We really appreciate that.
WazirX and CNBC TV 18 present Crypto, Digital Assets of the Future. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.